Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today I am here for my favorite video of the month, and that is my book of the month prediction video. We're going to be talking about August 2024. So if you watched my video from July, you will know that there were an insane amount of books releasing in July and so many of really good quality. I could not decide what book of the month was going to pick. August is like the hangover after the book binge. There are some good books publishing this month, but not nearly as many. I actually have a few less selections than usual because of this. There are still some really interesting picks, and I'm really excited to talk to you about these books, but it's definitely not quite as big of a month as the previous one. As per usual, we're going to start our predictions out with the historical fiction genre. I have 3 selections this month, which is great because I feel like we've been a little bit light on historical fiction for a while. The first selection is The Seventh Veil of Salome by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This currently has a 4.17 and 268 ratings on Goodreads so far. 1950s Hollywood. Every female actress wants to play Salome. This is a star-making role in a big budget movie about the legendary woman whose story has inspired artists since ancient times. When the film's mercurial director cast Vera Larios, an unknown Mexican ingenue, in the lead role, she quickly becomes the talk of the town. Vera also becomes an object of envy for Nancy Hartley, a bit player whose career has stalled and who will do anything for the fame that she feels she deserves. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Silvia Moreno Garcia has been previously featured by Book of the Month, and usually when they feature one of her books, it is wildly successful. Mexican Gothic in particular was one that was everywhere when it came out. I could see this being a really successful feature as well. Option number 2 is There Are Rivers in the Sky by Elif Shafak. This currently has a 4.51 and 179 ratings on Goodreads so far. 1840s London. Arthur is born beside the sewage-filled River Thames to an alcoholic, abusive father and a mentally ill mother. His only shot at escape is his brilliant memory, which lands him a spot as an apprentice with a leading publisher. 2014 Turkey. Nareen, a 10-year-old Yazidi girl, is diagnosed with a rare disorder that will eventually cause her to go completely deaf. Before that happens, her grandmother is determined to baptize her in a sacred Iraqi temple. But the looming presence of ISIS and the destruction of the family's ancestral lands are making that really difficult. 2018 London. Newly divorced Zalika, a hydrologist, has moved onto a houseboat on the River Thames to escape her husband. She's decided that she will take her life in 1 month when a mysterious book about her homeland changes everything. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Elif Shafak is a really big author and her books are always fabulous. This is a really big release, one that a lot of people are really hyped about. It's getting really good feedback, and honestly, I don't know why they haven't featured Shafak so far, but this would be a fantastic selection for Book of the Month. And my third historical fiction selection is A Pair of Wings by Carole Hobson. This currently has a 4.41 and 104 ratings on Goodreads so far. Bessie, the daughter of a woman born into slavery, is inspired by a moment in her childhood where an airplane flies over the cotton fields that her family is working in. As a single Black woman in 1920s America, Bessie moves to Chicago on her own to pursue her dreams. But she finds that she has to go even farther than Chicago. She teaches herself French and moves to Europe so that she can finally realize her dreams of becoming a pilot. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut historical fiction novel, and this is about a subject that I find super interesting. I feel like very few people know in great detail about this particular historical event, and I love that this book is going to explore Bessie's journey to become a pilot. As I've said before, I really love books that feature badass women doing badass things. Next up, we're going to talk horror, thriller, and mystery. I have 3 selections this month. First up, I have House of Bone and Rain by Gabino Iglesias. This currently has a 4.51 and 88 ratings on Goodreads so far. For childhood friends, Gabe, Xavier, Tavo, Paul, and Bimbo, death has always been close. Hurricanes, car accidents, gang violence, suicide. Bimbo's mother has been shot dead. Feral with grief, Bimbo has become unrecognizable. He's taking no prisoners in search for names. Soon they learn that Maria was gunned down by guys working for the drug kingpin of Puerto Rico. No one has ever gone up against him and survived. As the boys strategize, a storm gathers on the coast. Hurricanes are known to cause evil spirits when they come ashore, spirits which can impose their own order. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Gabino Iglesias was previously featured for The Devil Takes You Home, and I feel like his style of horror writing is a little bit different than the typical that you would see in Book of the Month, and I really really like that. He does this like really gritty noir. It's kind of gruesome and graphic. And I think it's kind of a nice break from the typical thrillers that Book of the Month likes to feature. So I honestly would really love to see this as a selection. Next up, I have Sacrificial Animals by Kailee Pederson. This currently has a 3.76 and 58 ratings on Goodreads so far. The last thing that Nick Morrow expected to receive was an invitation from his father to return home. When he left rural Nebraska behind, he believed that he was leaving everything there, including his abusive father Carole and the farm that loomed so large in his memory forever. But neither Nick nor his brother Joshua, who was disowned for marrying Amelia, a woman of Asian descent, can ignore such summons from their father, who is hoping for a deathbed reconciliation. Nick puts the time to good use, and his flirtation with Amelia quickly blooms into a romance. But when the affair turns intimate, Nick begins to suspect sinister motivations on Amelia's part. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut horror novel. This has a very interesting premise. I like that we have two guys who have basically been disowned, moved away, burned all the bridges with home, and now are being called back to reconcile with this looming figure in their childhood. And I'm curious what this element is with Amelia, why she's married to Joshua but having this flirtation / affair with his brother Nick. There's a lot going on there that makes this seem like it would be a really interesting selection. And our third selection in this genre is The Chamber by Will Dean. This currently has a 3.96 and 518 ratings on Goodreads so far. 6 experienced saturation divers are locked inside a hyperbaric chamber. Calm and professional, they know that rapid decompression would be fatal. So they work in shifts, breathing helium in hot, close quarters. Then one of them is found dead in his bunk. With 4 days left of decompression to go before the chamber can be safely unlocked, the group must watch each other's backs at all times. And when another diver is discovered unresponsive, the entire group is on edge. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Will Dean was previously featured, and I think it did reasonably well. He fits more the typical thriller genre that Book of the Month likes to feature, so I wouldn't be surprised to see this at least as an add-on, if not as a main selection. Next up is the romance genre, and I have 2 selections this month. Now, if you've been following this series for a while, you'll know that romance is a genre that I know nothing about. So I'm actually really excited because there's one author being featured this month that I actually have read previously. That selection is The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. This currently has a 4.08 and 1,770 reviews on Goodreads so far. Theo and Kit have been a lot of things: childhood best friends, crushes, in love, and now estranged exes. After a brutal breakup on a transatlantic flight to their dream European food and wine tour, they exited each other's lives once and for all. All that remains is the unused voucher for the European tour that never happened. Good for 48 months after its original date and soon to expire. 4 years later, it seems like a great idea to finally take that trip, solo, separately. It's not until the two of them board the bus for the tour that they realize they've each had the same idea accidentally. Now they're trapped with each other for 3 weeks of stunning views, luscious flavors, and the most romantic cities in France, Spain, and Italy. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Casey McQuiston has been previously featured by Book of the Month very successfully. Her book, Red, White, and Royal Blue, is one of those romances that I feel like everybody recommends. It's one of the few romances that I actually really enjoyed. Her book, One Last Stop, was also featured very successfully by Book of the Month. So I could definitely see this one doing well. And this has that will they, won't they get back together scenario that I think seems really popular in the romance environment. My second romance selection is The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava. This currently has a 4.35 and 137 ratings on Goodreads so far. Ember Lee Cardinal has not always been a liar. Well, not for anything that counted at least. But her job search is not going well, and when her resume is rejected for the 37th time, she decides to take matters into her own hands. She gets creative listing her qualifications, and she answers the ethnicity question on the application with a lie. Well, a half lie technically. No one wanted Native American Ember, but white Ember has just landed her dream accounting job on Park Avenue in Oklahoma City. Accountant Ember thrives in corporate life, and her love life seems to be looking up as well. Danua Colson, the IT guy and fellow Native who caught her eye on the first day. Despite her unease over the no dating policy at work, the two of them begin to see each other secretly. And somehow that makes it even hotter. But when they're caught in a compromising position on a work trip, a scheming coworker decides to blackmail Ember. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut romance novel, and I feel like the romance genre in terms of Book of the Month could really use an upgrade. Honestly, book of the month features the same handful of authors over and over and over again. Ali Hazelwood, Abby Jimenez, Emily Henry. I think it's getting a little bit predictable, and I would love to see them put some fresh blood in there. I also love that this has that like work environment, couples sneaking around. I like that there is some deeper and more complex issues being discussed within the story. I appreciate that it is going to incorporate Indigenous culture. There's just a lot to love about this book, and so I think it would make a really great book of the month selection. Next up, we're going to be talking about the literary and contemporary fiction genres. I have 4 selections this month. First up, I have And So I Roar by Abi Dare. This currently has a 3.90 and 30 ratings on Goodreads so far. When Tia accidentally overhears a conversation between her mother, terminally ill and lying in a hospital bed in Port Harcourt, Nigeria, and her aunt, the repercussions will send her on a desperate quest to uncover secrets that her mother has been hiding for nearly 2 decades. Back home in Lagos, a few days later, 14-year-old runaway Aduni is lying awake in Tia's guest room, desperate to seek a better future. She's finally found refuge with Tia, who's helped her enroll in school. It's always been Aduni's dream to get an education, and she's bursting with excitement. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Abi Dare has been previously featured for The Girl with the Louding Voice, and this was one of those books that I feel like is iconic for Book of the Month. Everybody that I know that's read it loved it, got a lot out of it, and I feel like this could be a really meaningful book as well. I love that it is Nigerian literature, and I wish that Book of the Month would honestly feature more African literature. I really hope to see this as a main pick. My second selection is The Fertile Earth by Ruthvika Rao. This currently has a 4.63 and 24 ratings on Goodreads so far. Vijaya and Shri are the daughters of the Ishmuks of Irumi, hailing from a lineage of ancestral aristocrats. Their family's social status and power over the villagers on their land is absolute. Krishna and Ranga, brothers, are the sons of a widowed servant in the Deshmukh household. When Vijaya and Krishna meet, they form an intense bond that is beautiful and dangerous. But after an innocent attempt at hunting down a man-eating tiger in the jungle goes wrong, what happens between the two of them is disastrous, the consequences of which reverberates through their lives into young adulthood. Years later, when violent uprisings rip across the countryside and the ultra-left Naxalite movement arrives in Irumi, Vijaya and Krishna are forced to navigate the insurmountable obstacles of land ownership and class warfare in a country that is burning from the inside out. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut novel, and I love that this is going to have a really deep thematic exploration. We're going to be talking about social class, we're going to be talking about land ownership, we're going to be talking about leftist movements, and all of this on top of this star-crossed lover situation. I think that this makes for a really complex and interesting book. I could see this making a really good pick for Book of the Month. Then I have The Rich People Have Gone Away by Regina Porter. This currently has a 3.78 and 18 ratings on Goodreads so far. Brooklyn, 2020. Theo Harper and his pregnant wife Darla head upstate to wait out the lockdown. Not everyone in their upscale Park Slope condo building has this privilege. Not Xavier in the Cardi B t-shirt, nor Darla's best friend and her partner Katsumi, who both are forced to stay behind to save their Michelin-starred restaurant. During an upstate hike on the aptly named Devil's Path, Theo divulges a long-held secret. When Darla disappears after the argument, Theo finds himself the prime suspect, as Darla and Theo's families come together to search for her, with Ruby and Katsumi stepping in to broker peace. Past and present collide with startling consequences. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this sounds like a really interesting book. I like that we have this privileged couple who gets to just, go away to upstate New York while everyone else has to suffer through the pandemic. I like that it's going to explore the pandemic and the consequences of privilege and wealth. I like that we have kind of that mystery thriller element with the wife disappearing, and I like that the friends are going to get brought in to do some detective work. I think this sounds like a really interesting book, and this could make a fun Book of the Month selection. And my final selection for this genre is Freedom is a Feast by Alejandro Puyana. This currently has a 4.77 and 13 ratings on Goodreads so far. In 1964, Stanislavo, a zealous young man devoted to his ideals, turns his back on his privilege to join the leftist movement in the jungles of Venezuela. There, as he trains, he meets Emiliana, a fellow revolutionary and nurse. Though their connection seems to be love at first sight, their romance is upended by a decision that will echo down through generations. 40 years later, the country's political trajectory has drastically changed, as have the trajectories that Stanislavo and Emiliana have followed in the succeeding decades. When a young boy is accidentally shot on the evening of the coup against President Chavez, Stanislavo's chance encounter with the boy's mother forces a reckoning with past missteps and the way his actions have reverberated into the present. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut fiction novel, and I love that this book is set in Venezuela. This is a country that I feel like does not get enough attention in literature, and I love that this is going to delve into political exploration and the history of the country. I think there is a lot that could make this book a really deep and interesting read. I really hope that Book of the Month picks this one up. And finally, we're going to talk fantasy and science fiction. I have 3 selections for this category this month. First up is Hera by Jennifer Saint. This currently has a 4.09 and 1,074 ratings on Goodreads so far. Hera, immortal goddess and daughter of the ancient titan Kronos, helped her brother Zeus overthrow their tyrannical father so that they could rule the world. But as they established their reign on Mount Olympus, Hera suspects that Zeus might just be as cruel and ruthless as their father was. And then she begins to question her role at his side. She was born to rule, but does that mean perpetuating a cycle of violence and cruelty that has existed since the dawn of time? I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Jennifer Saint has been previously featured by Book of the Month. She focuses on retellings of Greek mythology, and that is a really popular subgenre right now. Those types of books seem to be selling really well, and I have yet to have seen a Hera rewrite so far, so this is a completely new retelling. I think that this would be a really popular pick if Book of the Month selected it. I will honestly be pretty surprised if it's not at least an add-on. Then we have The Volcano Daughters by Gina Maria Balbrera. This currently has a 3.98 and 60 ratings on Goodreads so far. El Salvador, 1923. El Salvador, 1923. Graciela grows up on a volcano in a community of indigenous women indentured to coffee plantations. One day, a messenger from the capital comes to claim that 9-year-old Graciela has been chosen to be an oracle for a rising dictator. She'll help foresee the country's future. In the capital, she meets Consuelo, the sister that she's never known. Consuelo was stolen away from their home before Graciela was born. The two are a small fortress within the dictator's regime, but there is no match for El Gran Pendejo's brutality. Years pass and terror rises as the economy flatlines, and Graciela comes to understand the horrific vision that she's helped to shape. When genocide strikes the community that raised her, she and Consuelo barely escape, each believing the other to be dead. They run, crossing the globe, reinventing their lives, and ultimately reconnecting at the least likely moment. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut novel, and I love that this book is set in El Salvador. This is another country where I feel like there are not enough books written about it. I love that this is going to cover this period of time where there's a dictator rising, and Graciela's like unwitting help in creating this vision for this dictator. This sounds like a fantastic read. I feel like there's going to be a lot of really deep thematic explorations, just so much to love with this book, and it's getting good reviews so far. I would absolutely love to see Book of the Month pick it up. And my final selection is The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. Maclean. This currently has a 4.14 and 233 ratings on Goodreads so far. As head Phoenix Keeper at a world-renowned zoo for magical creatures, Isla's childhood dream of conserving the critically endangered firebird seems closer than ever. There's just one glaring caveat: her zoo's breeding program hasn't functioned in over a decade. When a tragic phoenix heist sabotages the flagship initiative at a neighboring zoo, Isla must prove that her derelict facilities are fit to take the reins. But saving an entire species from extinction takes more than just stellar animal handling skills. Carnivorous water horses, tempestuous thunderhawk, mischievous dragons. Ayla has no problem wrangling beasts, but inspiring zoo patrons? That's another story. Mustering the courage to ask for help from the zoo's hotshot griffin keeper at the zoo's most popular exhibit? Virtually impossible. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut fantasy novel, and it is described as cozy fantasy. On the description of this book, it says it's for the people that liked Legends and Lattes and A House in the Cerulean Sea, and both of those books are wildly popular. I could see this doing really well. I haven't seen Book of the Month delve too much into cozy fantasy yet, but it's never too late, and this sounds like this could be a really fun selection for them. So those are all of my August 2024 Book of the Month predictions. I hope that you found this video interesting. As always, if you liked the video, hit the thumbs up, comment down below and let me know what you think of my picks. Are there any books on here that were on your radar, any that you're really excited to read? Tell me which ones you really would absolutely love to see in your Book of the Month box, or any predictions that you think I'm just absolutely crazy for having put in this video. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video, and that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.